Hi. Yeah, we have quite a few new projects happening with the senior center. Basically, we still have our nature walks that are happening. We have a game room that I've opened up. It's every afternoon from 2:30 to 4:30 with some brand new games, board games, even a karaoke machine. A new thing called Afro Aerobics coming on Saturdays. Ballroom dance classes starting in June. The Alexander technique, which is like a stretching type of yoga technique, which is still happening. The Zoom yoga is still in effect with Ed Sisk. And we have an upcoming program happening this week with Pamela Bedelia called Paper Arts, featuring like origami and some other arts with paper for seniors. And each class is $2. Our website is currently down. It's getting absolved into the city website so that we'll just have a calendar for the senior center that should be going up on the Hudson City website. I apologize. I'm working with the mayor, Dave Michael Hoffman, on that. But for the meantime, if anyone has any questions or want to know any updates, we can be located on our Facebook page, which is the City of Hudson Senior Center page, and also Hudson Senior Center on Instagram. So hopefully we'll have an update on the calendar very soon. But that's about it. Everything's going great and getting some good feedback. We appreciate all of your support.
You're welcome. Any questions from council members? Okay, thank you, Nia.
I just want to thank you for a fantastic job you're doing, Malachi.
Thank you.
Okay, Heather, are you with us?
I am.
Okay, your report, please.
This is going to be very short. So let me just share my tiny little agenda.
Okay.
So it's not ready yet, but you're going to see a resolution next week for yet another loan to the capital fund, and this is to cover expenses associated with the Ferry Street Bridge project. Last few weeks have been crazy because we had to get the AUD prepared and filed. Well, I had to get it prepared, and so we filed a draft. We're still waiting for the fee accountant to review it and okay it, because as I mentioned before, there's a lot of significant restatements that had to happen. And then I believe I sent everybody on the council last year's official statement, which is a document that we put together when we're going out for municipal financing. So that's for your reading pleasure. We're actually in the process, or I will be in the process of updating that because as you all know from last meeting, we're going to be renewing our bond anticipation notes. We did make the decision to renew the bond anticipation notes rather than switch some of the existing debt over to a bond for two primary reasons. One is that the interest rates are currently quite high, and the hope is that in a year from now they will be lower. But also, given the relatively small amount that we would go to market with, the cost of issuance would be significantly high, almost 4% of the total cost, which is not ideal at all. So we're going to reissue the some of the existing bands, and then obviously adding these other capital projects as we talked about before. So we're reissuing for the pump station, for the ladder truck, for the Washington Street main, and for Promenade Park. We're going to be adding the stormwater separation project, Hudson Connects, which is the arterial bridge district streetscape work. And some amount of monies for the Ferry Street Bridge. We're still looking at timing and making estimates for reimbursement rates and timing. So we haven't finalized the entire amount yet, but we obviously will be doing that. We're going to go to sale on, I believe, I want to say June 8th, maybe. But anyway, and then I did finally get a project timeline on the NYPA LED streetlights project, and they're anticipating having the planning work done basically by the end of this year. And if the city does in fact approve the go forward on that, they would be at its most aggressive scheduling, they would be ordering product, at the end of 2022, and we'd be looking at paying out at some point in 2023. So we should be able to roll that into whatever we do a year from now, with the bond anticipation notes. So as I said, the AUD, which is the financial reporting to the state, is still in draft form. But right now with the draft form, our unassigned fund balance is coming in at I wish it was 7 million, 2.76 million. But that's a little artificially understated because we agreed that we would use ARPA money to help balance the 2022 budget. However, you cannot, because of the circumstances around how you have to look at and record ARPA money, that can't actually be recorded as an expenditure prior to it actually being an expenditure. So I had to adjust and use a temporary use of fund balance for that. So that's another 131,000 that really will drop to revenue and therefore will drop to fund balance in 2022. So that gets us to about 2.9 million, which is a nice bump from last year. We were at 2.3 and change, I believe. So that's great news. One other thing that I thought about after I put this together is just another piece of good news is we got our first quarter sales tax for 2022 and it was north of 5 million. So that's good, but it's a good number, but it's also good because we were pretty aggressive on our sales tax budget estimate for 2022. But so far that looks like it's good.
Excellent.
Yeah, so sorry, I am now actually a department with no staff because the temporary person that we hired, her last day was on Friday, and unfortunately Danielle came down with COVID over the weekend, so I'm now spending most of my time taking in tax payments and writing out receipts for things. So fortunately I didn't have a whole lot of time to do anything much deeper than this.
Well, that was excellent nevertheless. In the future, will we get back to where we had those monthly reports of various revenues and all that?
We will.
Okay, I realized you were understaffed right now, so I wasn't expecting it tonight anyway. I was actually surprised that you were able to make it at all. So thank you. Heather, anyone on the council have any questions? Can you take down your screen, please?
I just also want to thank Heather for her hard work. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you, Malachi. That's sweet.
And Malachi, at the end of the meeting, I hope you'll say that to me too. Moving right along.
We'll see.
Moving right along. Is Chief still? Oh, there he is. Chief, you're up.
Good evening, everybody. Happy May. These are the reports from the police department. We did our mandatory reporting of body camera review, where we do a monthly review of over 100 encounters with citizens by body camera. We consolidated it and send it to the mayor. That was done this morning or this afternoon. The other reporting we do to the council has to do with arrest data. I'm glad to say that over the month of April 2022, there was no use of force incidents. Hence, there was no duty to intervene situations. There was a total of 32 arrests with 60 total charges. I sent that to all the elders have the data. There's nothing there that looks particularly concerning as far as one crime category. The highest crime category is arresting people for failure to appear in court. But with the good weather, I don't know if the weather was all that good in April, but 32 arrests is significantly below average for this time of year. We had 8 different instances of emotionally disturbed people calls. That's right on average for the month. And for the second month in a row, I'm happy to report that there was no drug overdoses in the city. Hence, there was no administration of Narcan. So we're very happy for that report. So all in all, a pretty good month crime-wise. As far as administration of the department, on April 5th, over at the college, we participated in an active shooter tabletop drill to get us prepared for that type of incident. We have to stay sharp on that. On April 8th, at Columbia Green College, we did a mock interview panel for students with prospective desires to become police officers. So we helped the criminal justice program over there with that. April 12th, we did some interviews for replacement of, you might remember Tommy Haig over at the parking bureau, parking enforcement officer, retired. So we're looking to replace him this month. And lastly, on the 27th, we had an inspection or a visit with NYMIR, the New York Mutual Insurance reciprocal, that was just checking us out for best practices for liability for the city. And they said that we did good, that we would probably get some correspondence or report back from them. Overall, April was a good month for the city of Hudson, police-wise. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Chief, quick question. Those 8 EDPs, are they the usual suspects?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question for the chief?
I was just gonna ask something similar, Tom, just like break that out a little bit.
Real quick, I want to thank you Chief,
Well,
for,
somebody's talking. I can't hear you both. I think
Okay.
Theo was talking first.
I'm sorry.
I just had a question, I think Tom already asked, and I was just wondering, with those mental health incidents, is there any data available about how many of those are repeat people who are picked up? And if so, what efforts are being made to specifically guide those people into the needed programs?
The report, hi Theo, the report is not name specific right now, but I could certainly find that out for you. I told Tom just now that I do believe that several of the 8 were repeat instances with the same people.
Yeah, it'd be great to know, just even while keeping it anonymous, like how many of these people who are being picked up for mental health incidents have, what percentage have been picked up for a similar incident in the past month, 6 months, year. Hopefully that's not too much to ask, but just would be good to know, have a picture of like, what we're dealing with here, so.
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone knows that without using names, that a couple of people alone are responsible for over 100 calls for services. So it's an ongoing issue that we've discussed many times. I do believe treatment ideas and facilities are in the planning stage and underway, but once again, usually government's a little short at catching up with the problem, but I do believe that it's being addressed. I think City Attorney Cheryl Roberts certainly have a lot to say about that in her efforts to provide some kind of a treatment center.
And there have been interventions with some of the people involved. They just haven't worked out.
Right. It's the nature of the problem, not easily solved, and it requires a lot of people to try to make the situation better. Arresting it clearly doesn't solve the problem.
Dominic, you had a question?
Yeah, just a real quick statement. I want to thank you, Chief, for reaching out, combining our resources to increase some of the traffic issues and concerns, especially in our school zone. I think that it was very noticeable, and I know this weekend was another tough one with a lot of things that were on your plate. So I want to thank you in the department on bringing those things and those concerns to deal with them.
Yeah, there was an enforcement effort up on Harry Howard in the school zone. Also, I don't know if you folks have, given the concerns from last month, we did do a lot of monitoring of the 6th and Columbia intersection, and that'll be part of an ongoing report that I'll get back to you on. But you might have seen the cars parked there monitoring the traffic situation specifically at that intersection.
Thank you. Kamal, Mayor Kamal.
Yeah, I just had some updated information for Theo's question. So we had a site visit today for the proposed wellness hub that'll be just outside of Hudson. The county is actually becoming a partner on that project, and they just approved 2 field team specialist positions that'll be basically working around the clock for those individuals who are falling through the cracks in services.
Great, that's great to hear.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, moving right along.
Question.
Oh, sorry. Was there a question somewhere? I can't see a hand up.
I have Bill,
Bill.
I don't see your hand up.
No, he's over here now.
he's in person, he's here.
In person.
Oh, he's live there. Okay, sorry. Oh, okay.
I'd like to ask Chief a couple of questions if I could,
Okay, a couple, that's two.
a couple or three. Chief, a few months ago, you said that, as I recall, I heard you say it was very difficult for HPD to do any enforcement of speeding, actually using a radar gun on any of the streets downtown. And my sense is that there is no enforcement of speed downtown. Am I correct in that assumption? Like on State Street, like on Columbia Street, like on Union Street, like on Warren Street?
There's speeding in a zone, which is enforceable. When you use a radar gun, the radar is meant to verify your visual observations. So everybody would know if the block is 900 feet long, it's very hard to get a visual observation of a car that stops at 3rd Street, proceeds to 4th Street, and then check that against radar. It's simply very, very hard to do. So the area of radar enforcement tends to be more on Worth, Harry Howard, like that. Reckless driving under 1180 section and things like that are more directly observable. So that's why you'll see a lot more tickets for unsafe starting and things of that nature. Failure to keep right. 11
My question
D1.
still stands, Chief.
No, Bill, let him answer, please.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
My sense is that there is no enforcement of the speed limit by HPD with a radar gun on State Street, on Columbia, on Warren, on Union. Is that true or not?
Yes.
You're not doing any speed enforcement.
I just explained to you, you asked about the radar. The radar requires verification against visual observation. You have to have enough room to visually observe the speed and then verify it against radar. All of our officers are radar certified and they can use the radar from time to time, but it requires a good.
Done Warren, State, or Columbia, is that correct?
I didn't hear the whole question. I didn't hear the whole question.
I'm going to repeat my question. Is there any enforcement with a radar gun on Union, Warren, State, or Columbia?
I would have to check to see if we've written any. I would say very few.
So,
Chief,
as far
Can I just,
Chief of Police, are your officers using a gun on any of those streets, like the radar gun?
Tom, this isn't a
I know.
courtroom.
Okay, let's move along. Bill.
Listen, everybody, a radar gun requires visual observation of speed verified against the reading on your certified, tested radar device. Okay, I don't know how to explain it other than that. You need a clear line of observation to judge a car's speed and use it. So if I was to set up a radar gun, let's say at the middle 527 Warren Street, you would not be able to judge a speed and verify it in the 400 or 500 feet that the car traveled from the stop sign, period.
so Chief, so my understanding is basically, using a speed gun is not conducive to certain parts of the city because of the nature of the need of the speed gun. And also, they're going to, use it appropriately. That, certain distances in the streets is needed and it's not appropriate on all city streets, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
That's what he just said. Thank you.
I
So
just
what
want to
would
clarify.
be, what would
Okay,
be,
Malachi? Did you
yeah,
want to
so
say
Chief,
something?
yeah, so what will be used to determine the speed then, if not the gun?
So you can make a ticket for speed unreasonable and prudent if you observe someone and you can testify in court that you didn't think that the speed was prudent given circumstances, pedestrians, whatever is going on. So tickets can be written under 1180A section, okay? So there's other sections. There's reckless driving that I think someone was just recently cited for, unsafe starts, things like that. Or we can pull the vehicle over sometimes if it has an equipment defect. Either way, the person gets pulled over and either given a warning or given a ticket.
Okay, anybody else, any other council members have questions? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Tom.
Let's move to Senor Rob Perry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I got a new computer, that's why, just for you, Tom.
Oh, thank you. I think it's for the entire city.
Yeah. No. All right, so let's see, starting, I gotta figure out how to use the thing now. All right, so septage for March was $30,013. So we're still running a little low, but that's, you know, that's what happens in the early months of the year with the winter weather. The Front Street Stormwater Project, they've continued to do test pits and done a significant number of these. And the reason they're required is, you know, when you're doing a water main, water is under pressure. So you can put bends in the pipe. You can make it go left, right, up, down to get around all of the other utilities that are in the ground. But when it comes to sewer or stormwater, they have to have a straight line, and it has to go from one manhole to another manhole in a straight line. It can't have any curves. So it's important that we identify everything else that's in the ground that could potentially be in the way before they actually start the construction project. So that's what they're doing here. This is a significant one that was excavated today. This is primary power that goes across Columbia Street between the terrace and the low rise. So, you know, they need to know exactly where that is so the pipe can either go over it or under it. And just to give you an idea, this is the kind of, you know, work that we're dealing with. If I can figure out how to make this thing bigger. No, that's not it. Come on. Come on. Well, it's upside down. But anyway, you know, so this is down the intersection of State and Front. You've got fiber optic, which are these orange lines. You've got 2 sewer mains coming down. There's gas main over here. This red line is underground electric. So there's an awful lot of potential conflicts that are in the road that we have to identify. As far as the next, you know, the pipes and structurals will be ordered, and construction is expected to begin sometime in June. As far as the environmental planning grant, which we received a year or so ago, the contract has been executed. EFC has dispersed 50% of the funds to us. You know, so it's good. We're ready to go, but we probably won't get a whole lot of work done on it this year simply because we've got $3 million in other projects going on. But, you know, we'll get to it, and it doesn't expire, so that's fine. This is the Grand Street over here, the water main project on Washington Street. And so you can just see here, there's a gas service. This is, you know, they have to put, after they compact the soil around it, they put it sleeved in it to try and keep any kind of potential corrosion from the outside of the main. So they're doing about 40 to 60 feet a day. It should be another 2 weeks or so before the water main is done and fully installed. Once that is complete, that's basically phase 1 of this project. Then, you know, they'll charge it, they'll pressurize it, they'll disinfect it. Once it's certified by the lab to get put into service, then they'll go back and start migrating the lateral services over, and then we'll start doing the lead service replacement, which is phase 2 of the project. So that's moving along nicely. This is just an, you know, just an equipment trailer. Just one of the things that we do, you know, maintenance related in the early spring. You can see the boards are rotted. The excavator is back here that goes on it, and then they just replace all the boards and clean that up, get it ready to go. This is the kind of the floating dock that's being constructed to address the water chestnuts out the reservoir. And so this steel beam is going to support this sickle bar. This housing is going to come off. And what happens is basically a dock that has a kind of a lawnmower that gets submerged below the water level to cut the water chestnuts before they can reach the surface. Steel force repair work. This is out at the forge, which is where our water supply begins. And you can see with the heavy storm flow that we had last month, it blew the boards apart. So they just put some new boards in, replaced them, tied them together, because it does get extremely high flows out there from time to time. We also are going to be doing pipe cleaning tomorrow on the Churchtown line. So many of us remember last year what happened, and So, everything's put back together. We've retrieved the pig that was lost, and this is an essential part of our transmission main operations because it does build up inside of it, and half of this main was not addressed last year. So we are seeing decreased flows at the plant, which is not a good idea. So we'll be doing it again tomorrow. Obviously, we know what happened last year, and we won't be repeating that mistake. So that is as part of water is concerned. Promenade Hill, National Grid has come and pulled the power for the street lights, so that's another thing to check off the list. These are just some of the brackets that are used to hold the stones, the coping, the veneer in place. Just give you a little close up on that. And let's see if I can do like a little bit of a ta-da moment. So here's, one of the finished walls with the veneer. As you can see, it is a much, much nicer product than the old brick that was there. This is all done by, by masons. This is, there's all sorts of drains that go underneath it to make sure any water weeping over it comes out. But it's really going to be a stunning product when it's done. This is one of the steps, the coping, which is right here. These blocks are about 1,400 pounds each. And so this is the side, the rails we mounted into the coping, the handrails, which the handrails is, another discussion. This was part of the forming the foundation for part of the entrance. And this pipe that runs in the middle is an old force main that was abandoned when we upgraded the pump station by the Amtrak station 10 years ago. But they tend to just leave things in place. Of course, it's encased in concrete now, but it is abandoned, so it doesn't make a difference either way. And here's the finished product. The big, the elephant in the room with this project is the handrails. I've been updating you about the issues with the handrails since this project was in its infancy, and it continues to be a problem. It is likely that this project will be mostly, if not all, complete, and we're still waiting for handrails. The issue is you can't really put temporary handrails up without breaking into and drilling holes into a lot of the stuff that won't be permanent. Also, anything that you put in is still going to have to pass muster with the Department of Justice, and it's very difficult to do that with a temporary product. So we are, working with the fabricator to try and get them to expedite the process, but this is just, it is where we are. This is the supplier from Buffalo. He was one of the WMBE firms, and there's $200,000 worth of work that goes towards the minimum requirements that the Department of State have given us. So it's a cost of doing business. It is what it is. Down to 3rd Street. This is just what happened with the first section. What appears that years ago when they poured the concrete sub base, when concrete isn't properly cured, we call it, it's green. And if you put weight on it while it's not properly cured, it basically kind of crumbles. It turns into chunks, and that's what was discovered when we did the paving project a couple of years ago. So at this point of the game, we're removing the crumbled concrete from it, and then we're putting down stone, and there's a lot of handwork, and then they're compacting it, and they do it in lifts. The lifts go up with this fabric. What fabric looks like this down here, and it holds everything together, and then they put another layer on top of it, another layer of fabric. Then they do some binder, roll it, and then it comes up to the top. So it's very labor intensive, but it's the only way to really address what's going on there from basically the sub base is where the issue is. And it would make anything to do a treatment on top basically not last, which we already found that out. Other DPW stuff, with sweepers back in full action. This is actually what the sweeper picked up in Hudson Streets 1 week. So, I mean, those blocks are 2 feet high, so that pile's more than 6 feet tall. You wouldn't think it, but that's what's out there. That's why we sweep so regularly, because all of that would love to go into our collection system and choke up the mains and the sewer plant. We did put the docks in, and every once in a while we say, why don't you put the docks in earlier? Well, part of it is because these guys have to put their arms in the water, and the water's still 40 some odd degrees, and it's, you know, they're trying to bolt on, there's bolts and nuts that are going underneath there and hardware. So, you know, they get some limited exposure to it, but you would want them doing it, you know, for anything prolonged in much colder water than that. We also have, where are we now? Oh, this is my, let me get this one back. You'll love this. So I saw this on a Sunday, and I had to come around the block again because I thought I missed something. I thought maybe I was on the wrong block. But there is every single vehicle on this side is facing the wrong way. And there was the gentleman and his wife pulling in there from Massachusetts, and very, you know, going out of his way to make sure he parallel parked as far away from the curb as possible in the wrong direction. And I asked him, I said, what made you think that that was the right way to park? And he says, well, it's a one-way street. And I just kind of looked at him, and then he looked and realized it was not, which I thought would be enough. But believe it or not, he just kind of looked at me, shrugged me off, and went on his way. So even after he was told that he was parking the wrong way, he didn't seem to faze him at all. And he just went, and, you know, so to kind of echo, you know, Liz is a happy part of our new department head team. And it's nice that she's so, you know, bright-eyed and innocent. But the reason people don't have their dogs on leashes, and the reason people don't park the right way, is because rules are for other people. And that's just the way it goes. So a little bit of cynicism, I guess, on my part, but I've gone through it for a while. And the Local Heroes or Hometown Heroes program. So we started installing these. This is through the American Legion. And these, the first 50 kind of requested certain spaces, and then we'll be putting the rest of, I think it's 175 or so will go out. But that's it for that. As far as the other updates, you'll have 2 resolutions from me this month. One is already before you, which is the auction. We do this every couple of years. There's about 12 vehicles that are literally dead in more ways than one. We'll get a couple $100 for each of them as basically a scrap value. It goes into the general fund, and, you know, have at it. It's but the bigger issue is that, you know, those are vehicles that were in use as recently as a couple weeks or a couple months ago. So we still have no plan as how to replace these vehicles unless we're going to start calling Ubers for the crew to move around. The other resolution is going to be amendment to the CHIPS budget. So that way, because we're going to do some work this year, and DOT quarterly sends us an update. So we'll just make a budget amendment. It is revenue offset 100%. So it's revenue neutral. So it doesn't really make a difference much anything else. Ferry Street update of plan specifications estimates were resubmitted to DOT last week. They've acknowledged the receipt. We need to conclude some utility easements with National Grid. Dealing with National Grid takes its time. We do have to issue a check to Amtrak for $390,000, which I discussed last month or the month before. Heather just alluded to it in her presentation, and that is for the flaggers for the project. We also need to authorize a second supplemental agreement with Creighton Manning. That's under legal review right now. That's to hire Creighton Manning to conduct construction inspection of the bridge when that process starts in next winter, late winter, early fall, spring. But on the good news is we had a local Columbia County Transportation Advisory Committee meeting last week or the week before, and the CTAC, after my very my plea, I guess, they're going to provide us with an additional $500,000 towards this project. So each year the county receives about $750,000 in off-system bridge money, and they've agreed to provide the city with a $500,000 of that for 2023, fiscal year 2023, to go towards the bridge construction. So that helps offset some of these other costs that are extremely high. And plus, the budget is 6 years old and everything's just going up. So it is, you know, that's good news. Also this week, pipe cleaning, and then we'll be back on 3rd Street on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So we'll get the message boards up if Michael or whomever can kind of update the website. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, wakey, wakey, eggs a bakey. Hudson will be doing the work bright and early in the morning. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for that very colorful presentation. Any council members have questions?
Tom, I got just one question for Rob. Rob, on those two vehicles, I know you said they're probably dead anyway, but the Tundra and the Durango, are they in any shape one of those to be repurposed for code enforcement by any chance?
No.
No. Okay.
Those are the old, man.
Okay, Vicky has her hand up.
Hi, Rob. Thank you for cleaning up Clinton and Fifth, by the way, and repaving that area. I appreciate it. So I wanted to ask you, I don't know the history behind of the Washington Street. I'm grateful you're doing part of Fifth Ward. You're repairing the pipes there. But why was that? Why that street was picked when there are so many other, problematic areas and more lead pipes around the city? So I was just wondering what prompted the city to start from there.
Well, the water main project and the lead service line project are two separate projects, but we're using one contract because then we can get some synergy and we can get some, because we don't have to pay a contractor twice to move supplies. We don't need to pay a contractor twice to get insurance. The 12-inch main was the final step in a 6-year project. So I realize you're new. You didn't hear all my wonderful reports from 2015, 16, 17, 18, when we installed new 12-inch main from 7th Street down to 6th, or from Harry Howard to Washington, and then up Washington to 5th. And this is the last section. Because you're the 5th Ward, this is going to make you really, really excited. What happens is when there's low water pressure somewhere in the city, the boulevards lose water first. And so this 12-inch main is the culmination of combining the trunk line that comes from the tank across 7th Street down Washington. So that way we can try and improve supply to the boulevard. So that way when there's an issue somewhere else in the city, they have a greater chance of keeping water pressure on. The fact that we were there for this project made it easier to kind of say, well, let's get our hands on doing this lead service line. All the housing stock there is going to qualify, because basically most of the housing, if not all the housing in Hudson, is going to qualify just because everything's so damn old. So we're starting with that because it made, kind of made logistical and economic sense. And then the phase 2 will go on, other parts of the city. It'll probably be some kind of a lottery, because there's not going to be enough money to do all of them by far, probably another 20 or 30 households. But that's it. But the good news is, the really best part to take away from this is our water is not aggressive and we do corrosion control. So there is our lead and copper samples come back non-detect. So even if you have a lead service, like I have a lead service, it is perfectly safe to drink that water. And I drank it all I've been here, my daughter was raised on it, drinking it. If I didn't think it was safe, we'd be telling you that. So the lead service line is an initiative from the health department. It's not an initiative from the city. It's something that they are promoting as part of an EPA thing. And so when they want to offer money to the city to conduct work on behalf of the residents and they want to pay for it, then, it's my obligation to conduct that work. But is it necessary? Is there a health risk in Hudson that requires this? Absolutely not.
Rob, you sure you want to offer yourself as an example there?
Yeah, well, I may have put something else in the water.
Don't put the water.
Any other council members?
Yeah, can I, we don't have this presentation on the website or anything, right? I see the superintendent's report.
Yeah, it should be.
It's on the website.
But it was put up relatively late, it's true.
It was put up when it was completed.
All right. And the supplement that you just showed, not just the report?
The whole shebang.
Whole shebang, okay. Well, great. Just a quick question about the intersection at State and Short Street. I've been speaking with Chief Moore about the illegal parking spot there. Chief Moore was nice enough to put some parking cones there to make sure that no one would park. We were waiting for nicer weather to put the paint down. I was just wondering if you had an update on when you think that parking spot will be painted over.
Well, this is actually the first week that we've had any decent weather at all. And obviously we're scheduled already to work on 3rd Street and something else. But once we get a decent stretch of weather, we detail a crew. It's like a 5 or 6 person crew because there's the paint machines, there's the trailer with the supplies, there's somebody driving the truck. You need a flagger or two to try and keep the guys from not getting run over. But the good news is once they get out and do this, they really rip out a lot of curbs. Really, they put a lot of paint down fast.
Okay, and then just last quick question. I think you went over it, but just to confirm, the sale of the surplus equipment goes into a revenue account that goes into the general fund?
Correctamundo.
Thank you, Armando.
Any other questions from council members? Any other questions at large?
Bill has a question.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Bill.
Oh, okay.
Two issues, if I could raise to Rob. First one is the failed section of South Third, which you're going to be working on again next week or this week. I hear you say that when it was worked on, we found this and we found that. Who actually replaced that road in 2017?
Well, Counselor, this is what happened. When we were milling and paving, we ripped off the top 4 inches and then we found some issues with the concrete subbase, but that was not planned to be a road reconstruction project. We removed some parts out, we supported other pieces of it, and then we went heavy with the binder to try and hold everything in place because traffic was shut down. We were trying to get it done within that day. Obviously, it didn't hold that well. It only lasted about 5 years or so. So that's it. But it was not part of the scope of the project. It was something that we.
Colarusso did not replace that road. Is that correct?
What's that?
Colarusso was not part of that project.
Colarusso replaced the 2 inches of binder and the 2 inches of top coat on top, but they did not address any of the sub base because that wasn't in their contract.
They were hired to replace the road under the CHIPS program. Is that right?
They were hired to mill and replace the top coats of asphalt. Yes.
So when you found a problem underneath, you said it was in the sub base, and last month you said you didn't have the material or time to do it. Is that correct?
Well, I don't think I said that.
Yes, you did actually, Rob. So when you found out there was a problem, you say we. Are you talking about the DPW found the problem, or DPW and Colarusso found the problem together?
DPW found the problem.
You didn't let Colarusso know about it when they repaved the street. Is that safe to say?
Colarusso was there when we identified the issue, but it wasn't part of their project.
You didn't tell Colarusso before they repaved the road.
Bill, calm down.
Is that correct or
Bill,
not? Yes or no, Rob?
We told them to put the binder in, and we told them to put the base and then the top coat. That's what we told them.
You didn't tell them there was, but you saw a problem with the subbase.
That is
Okay.
correct.
Let's move right
Rob.
along here.
Rob, did you order the code red or not?
I'm thinking of one.
Okay, moving right along. Thank you, Rob. No more questions from the council. We'll move along. Oh, I just got the finger. Okay, moving right along. Where are we? Okay, we can start with the resolutions. Shaheen or Michael? Shaheen, there we go. Okay. First resolution is Commissioner of Deeds. Do I have an introduction? Oh, can you unmute the people at City Hall so I can hear them?
I'll introduce.
Okay, Amber, a second, please. Someone?
Duan.
Juan, thank you. Next resolution, please. This is the one Rob referred to about the authorizing the sale of this old equipment. Can I have an introduction, please?
On.
And a second.
I'll second, Tom.
Malachi, thank you, sir. Moving along. This designates the Register Star as the official newspaper of the city of Hudson. If anybody wants to understand why we go with the Register Star, it's the only local paper that meets all the requirements in terms of times of publication.
Dewan.
Dewan, and a second, please.
I'll second.
Amber, thank you. Okay. The next two resolutions, even though we'll vote on them at different times, these are two more pieces of property adjacent to the piece of property we sold last month. We were just a little behind getting them all together. This one, the property we sold was the largest piece. We sold that for $50,000. There's two smaller pieces adjacent to it. Another one's going to the group who bought the last piece. And then this third piece is going to Salih Sabre, who is another part of Montgomery Street. Now, remind you, this is a dead end that has really no interest except to the people who whose property is back onto it. Any questions, or can we go with an introduction? Introduction? Someone? Hello?
I'll introduce.
Thank you, Amber. A second.
Dewan.
Thank you, Dewan. And the next resolution, as I said, is the other piece. An introduction.
I'll introduce.
Thank you. And a second.
I'll second, Malachi.
Okay, thank you, Malachi. Okay, we have two more. This is unfortunately, Peter Bujano can speak to this, but the funding we need for that corner of Fairview and Route 9 or Green Street, the bids came back and they were higher than we anticipated. Partly, of course, as Rob mentioned in his presentation, everything's gone up in terms of in terms of construction costs. So this authorizes us to spend some more from our fund balance. We took a lot out of the ARPA funds, but we're going to take this out of the fund balance. Any questions?
We need 80,000 more.
I'm sorry.
We need 80,000 more, sir.
Correct. Vicky?
Yeah, this is a little bit painful to see, but I said it's a little bit painful to see, but I don't think we'll have any other choice.
I agree.
And how long what was the waiting period until we had the response from Calaruso? Was there?
Well, I think it was fairly standard. It was, I think it was a month or 6 weeks.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I mean, it's important to have safety in that.
Right.
And there's nothing else. We can do.
Right. And this is, this has been identified as one of the, I think somebody somewhere was talking about the Bermuda Triangle of the 3 spots that are very difficult.
Oh, it's impossible. It's not pedestrian friendly. This is horrible to cross.
Yeah. So let's hope this is worth it. Can I have an introduction?
Just real quick question. This is the final bid, right?
Yes.
This will go
Yes.
up and- Okay.
Correct. We could actually go down in the process. An introduction?
I'll introduce Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. And a second.
Dewan.
Dewan, thank you, Dewan. Okay. Our last resolution for tonight is designating June as Pride Month. I don't think we need a discussion, do we?
No.
So let's, thank you, Vicky. An introduction?
I will introduce.
Ryan, and a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Amber. And that is the end of tonight's official business. Council members, anything you'd like to raise? The chief is back.
Hey, I just, Tom, I want to come back to thank you for all the hard work you do as well.
I was just kidding, Malachi. You don't have to do that.
Hey, Malachi, don't you have anything to say to me?
Yeah, hey, listen, hey, let me tell you, I appreciate everybody in Hudson that's actually, trying to make a difference here. So the whole Hudson, I appreciate you guys. Love you guys.
Thank you, Malachi.
From the mayor on down.
Thank you, Malachi, for.
All right, now we're getting excessive. We're cheapening the compliment. We gotta adjourn.
Who is that?
That was all their city council member.
Okay, well, I do have to ask the public. There's not much here, but.
No, Tom, I still wanted to.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I just wanted to give everybody an update. After the tourism meeting last Friday, we had our presentation from Alex Petraglia and then trickling in feedback from members of the tourism committee. I think that we're leaning toward recommending to the mayor, whose decision it is ultimately, to be a little bit more restrictive this year, looking at only making the shared streets or the seasonal streets available to establishments that don't have outdoor dining, including restaurants, cafes, and juice bars, but not retail or food trucks. Restaurants that do not have outdoor are allowed up to 2 spots, must pay for the lost parking revenue. Cafes and juice bars would get 1 spot and pay for the lost parking revenue. It's inclusive this year of establishments that are off of Warren Street. It must require at least 1 designated ADA compliant table. It's also mandatory that the tables be cleared no later than 10 p.m. nightly out of respect for the neighbors. HBCI will provide the grants to get the covers for the blocks and the planters replanted, or the cost and covers passed on to the businesses. Program would run from Memorial Day through Labor Day or the week after Labor Day, TBD. And then in terms of enforcement, Chief, let us know if this works for you. We're recommending a 3 strikes rule and pulling participation from a business if you receive 3 viable noise complaints. And if there's a code complaint at all during the time, 1 code complaint would also pull them from the program. So we can put this together next week if we want to do some sort of formal letter to the mayor making the recommendation, but that's where we sort of netted out.
Sounds good. Any other comments from council members on that? Great.
I just want to thank Ryan for the hard work and conversations and putting this all together. It's great.
Yes, Ryan, you did a good job. Thank you.
And lastly, we open up the floor to the public. Any comments, questions? Okay, do I have a motion? This is wonderful because I'm an hour behind you all in Chicago, so I have a full
motion to adjourn then.
Thank you. Second, Dewan. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, anybody opposed? Okay, see you next week.
Everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you, Malachi.